Council? No, thanks. I'm the Director of Safer Newark Council. My colleagues Elizabeth Rubin and Dr. Lee Grossman. We're here along with the mayor to give an East Ward public safety briefing about public safety issues in the East Ward. So I'm going to go first. I have a presentation. I work at Rutgers University. I'm a professor in the School of Criminal Justice. And what myself and Dr. Grossman do is that we put together the crime numbers for the city, and we've put together the crime numbers for the ward specifically. So I'm just going to go over the crime numbers for the city and the ward, and then we're going to have the mayor speak, and then we're going to have the captain speak because he definitely knows more about the East Ward than I do, and we'll have the councilman speak as well. So Safer Newark Council, so what do we do? So we have three main goals. One is to provide an independent assessment of the current status of public safety in Newark to share with Newark citizens and stakeholders. So we release a yearly report that uses the public safety data in the city of Newark. We identify and promote a set of strategic priorities for improving Newark's public safety citywide. So we use evidence-based strategies to be able to decrease the crime citywide. And we create a medium for aligning evidence-based and problem-oriented public safety initiatives with these strategic priorities, making connections between the city's current array of public and private safety activity and identifying gaps in that work. So basically what we want to do, the mayor's vision is to basically have a program for everyone. So a program, so anybody who's at risk, anybody who may be at risk of committing a crime or going down the wrong road, we want to intervene and have an intervention for that person. So we provide the other things that we do is that we provide neighborhood-specific data to residents and community groups beyond what the police have the capacity to do. We organize work with community groups in the following areas: victim services, violent crime, youth, reentry, and community outreach. So we have basically 5 different subcommittees, and we work on these issues to bring services and funding to the city. So citywide crime. For citywide crime, homicide is down by 23%. Robbery is down by 22%. Aggravated assault has increased by 24%. But Dr. Grossman does a yearly murder analysis to be able to group the homicides into categories, to be able to tell what it is that's driving the homicides. And she's going to be doing this for aggravated assault as well, since it came up on our radar as an issue that's increased. Burglary is basically the same at 3%. Theft from an auto is up a little bit, 5%. Theft is down 2%. And auto theft, wait, what's FA? Yeah, from auto. Okay, auto theft is up 10%. So the East Ward crime. So East Ward crime is different, much different than the city. From 2016 to 2017, it was the same number of murders, although one murder is way too many murders. There were 3 murders in the East Ward. Robbery would decrease by 34.3%. Aggravated assault in the East Ward only increased by 0.8%. So you decreased a lot more than citywide. Burglary is down 7%. Theft from auto is down 5.8%. Theft is down 8.7%, and auto theft is up 5.8%. So those numbers look pretty good for 2017. So basically, we look to see who it is that are homicide victims and who it is that are suspects, so that we can create these evidence-based strategies to intervene, to stop homicides. So of the 5 homicide victims, 75% of the incidents involved a firearm. 100% were male, 60% were black, 40% were Hispanic, 60% were ages 24 and under, and the mean age is 22.4. 60% were known to the New Jersey criminal justice system before the homicide incident. Of the suspects, 100% were male, 87.5% were black, 37.5% were ages 24 and under, the mean age was 30.6, and 100% were known to the criminal justice system before the homicide incident. The motives, 50% were identified as drug disputes and 50% were identified as personal disputes. So what this tells us is that if we need a program to intervene in the number of homicides in the East Ward, what we want to do is that we want to target the individuals who are at the highest risk for becoming either a suspect or victim of crime. So we do have programs citywide that target young men of color who are between the ages of 18 and 30, who have had previous, or who are known to the New Jersey criminal system. And we also have a program that intervenes into disputes. Since the murders are basically over disputes, right? We have programs that intervene into the disputes and try to not have the disputes escalate. Okay. So arrest, field inquiries, quality of life summons, parking, and moving violations have all increased in 2017. So that means there's more enforcement going on. External complaints against officers have decreased 41%. Use of force reports by officers have decreased 16%, and vehicle pursuits have decreased 19%. And Newark, the city of Newark is currently under a consent decree, and this is what the consent decree is targeting. It's targeting complaints against officers, new use of force policies are being rolled out, and more training for officers. So as you can see, so the 2017 violent crime, so basically the colors are all what we call hotspots. So there's one hotspot in the East Ward, and it's by Lincoln Park. So this is property crime, right? And property crime is basically concentrated around Penn Station. Is that Penn Station? So basically, these maps tell the police where to put their resources. Right? Auto theft is, you can see on the map, it's concentrated basically in the east of the East Ward. And so that's where police...
Sorry, can you point to it, because I'm really not getting it.
Sorry. I'll go over here. All right. So this is where the auto thefts are high, right around here, right? So we have Chestnut, Elm Street, South Street, Murray Street, Emmett Street, right over here. So these are the drug arrests and the calls for service, all right? So the calls for service are the colored spots, and the drug arrests are the black spots. So what this map is basically telling you is that when officers get calls for service, they go to the place, and that's where they patrol and can arrest people. So this is telling you that the officers are doing their jobs. When they do get calls for service, they go out and arrest. An illegal dumping arrest. Illegal dumping is very difficult to arrest for, because you have to have the person in the act of doing it. But the red dot represents the illegal dumping arrest. And as you can see, it's a little bit of a problem for the East Ward, right here on Murray and but most of it is not really in the East Ward. Again, to the drug arrest, a little bit of a problem here, but most of it is an issue in other parts. Oh, thank you so much. All right, well, that was it. So, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the mayor to wrap up. Thank you.
Can you turn the mic on, please?
Can we, I don't know if I need it, but it's for the video, something? Okay. I just want to thank, everybody for coming out this evening and being part of this, this evening. I just want to first say the Safer Newark Council was created. We created the Safer Newark Council for various reasons. One, we needed to have real data about what was happening in our city as it relates to crime, and not just anecdotal information or people's individual stories or make it a political act, right? So at the end of the day, usually police go where people make the most noise. And that might not be the place where the police need to go, right? Usually they show up places, and so there may be something that happens down the street and we get all, angry, and the police move down the street and they're not in a place where we need them to be. And there's not any real kind of data that helps us analyze what actually is happening, what are the trends, and what do we need to do outside of just using police, because there's other kind of alternative methods that the city employs that is outside of, though they work with police, is outside of the police action, whether it's the Newark Community Street Team, the Safer Newark Council, Safe Passageway to School, all kinds of opportunities that was spoken about earlier, where we try to intervene before things turn into violence. And as you can see, most of the people, if not all of the people that are involved in the kind of violence that happens in our city, more than 90% of those folks are involved in some kind of activity with the law. And so it's important for us to intercede with them so it does not turn into violence or into murder. And so we do a variety of different programs that we try to put in place to catch folks before these disputes turn deadly. And that's incredibly important for us, and that's what we target a lot. And sometimes, so we put new cops in the academy. I know everybody fusses, why did they get more cops versus these people? Why did you get more cops? And that turns into a community debate. Well, the police make their actions based on what you just saw. So if there's big dots in specific areas, they obviously need more attention than other areas in the city. And so we have to deploy them that way. That's the smart way, which is why we see reduction. So the important thing is that you see less police complaints, but more reduction in crime. And that's important for us, right? Because we don't want to just send police anywhere and everywhere assuming that everybody's involved in something, right? We want to send them right to the spots where it's actually happening at and begin to target crime and individuals who are committing crime and not target people based on where they live or their nationality or anything of that nature, right? And so the trend of them reducing that, but at the same time reducing crime, speaks volumes to what we're doing here versus what happens around the country. And we want to continue that trend. And we only can continue that with the data that's provided to us by the Safer Newark Council, the kind of data that we're getting around robberies, around arrests, around violence, around homicide, around aggravated assault, around domestic violence, which peaks, which is one of the reasons why we had to create the Shani Baraka Center, because domestic violence in the city was increasing. And we still have a problem with that, right? And we still have to engage our community and our folks to come out and be a part of the programs that we have around domestic violence, because domestic violence is a part of our aggravated assaults. It's also a part of our homicides that don't usually get the same kind of attention as opposed to somebody getting shot or murdered around drug activity or the kind of violence that our youth are engaged in sometimes. It's also important for us to see the ages, because we usually have the idea that most of this is being done by a bunch of young kids, and we find out that that's not the case, right? That some of these people are older, and that some of the things like robberies are created by younger kids who are doing robberies, and then they graduate from robbery and start doing homicide, right? Or back and forth. And so it's important for us to target them while they're doing robberies, intercede, then pull them out of that kind of vicious cycle, and hopefully we can prevent them from being a victim or a perpetrator of violence and homicide in our city. These are strategies that we undergo based on real information. We're not going eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We're not doing it based on who's coming to the meetings, who's the loudest, who screams at the council meetings, who come here, who come there. We have to do it based on data. That's the only way we can see real results in our city, right? And the real data. So some of the data is not good. Some of it is good. Some of it is not good. Some of it is mediocre. But we have to be able to look at it face to face and come to grips with what the data actually says and come up with strategies of how to address this in a real way. And you can see the East Ward. There's some very specific things that happen in the East Ward, but you can see robberies are down. Theft from autos are down, which is different from auto theft. Theft from auto and auto theft is different, and these guys will explain it. It's down, so those things are down, right? Though it was said that any murder is too many, and I agree with that. 3 versus 50 is huge, right? And so it determines what the police must do, right? Because if you live in a community where there's 50 murders as opposed to a place where there's 3, then you expect a different kind of policing in your neighborhood than a neighborhood that only has 3. And we have to do that, right? And it is not always popular. It's not always going to get people to say, "Oh, I love the mayor." But ultimately, I have to go with the data. You know, if the data tells us that, we're gonna have to put cops on the dots. And that's basically what we're doing here. And we use the Safer Newark Council to help us think about alternative strategies, and that's important. And lastly, I think what all of this says to us is that the police cannot resolve these issues alone. That's what it means. It means that ultimately, we need the college community, which is Safer Newark Council, comes out of the university community. You know, we need community members. We need people like the Newark Community Street Team that are intervening in conflicts. You know, because the police ain't intervening in the conflicts. They're coming after the conflict has already happened. And that's their job, by the way. Their job is to come when the conflict is over. Their job is not really to intervene in a conflict. Their job is to lock people up when there is a conflict. And we're not angry at that because that's what they're supposed to do. Safer Newark Council is supposed to the Newark Community Street Team is supposed to get in there when conflicts arise, try to stop a conflict so there's no murder. And if there's no murder, then the police don't got to arrest nobody. Right? And that's basically the difference. Or the Newark Street Academy that targets those kids that are doing those robberies, that are not engaged, that are not in school, that don't have jobs, to get them to get a GED, get them back in school, get them employment, so they're not committing robberies that graduate into that kind of violence. So those are the kind of strategies that we need, and begin to use some state dollars and city dollars to push it towards alternative strategies around trauma-informed care that will help us reduce the kind of violence that's happening and the other kind of issues that happen in our city, but at the same time make sure the police are coming out their car, doing their job, engaging the community. And you can see there's a lot of issues around Penn Station, right? You can see that data shows us that. You probably know that anecdotally. The data is showing us that, and there's some things that we're gonna probably have to do in that area and other areas, and I know the captain is on top of it, so I'll let him get the opportunity to, I don't know who's next, the councilman or the captain. I'll give the captain or the councilman?
Or whoever.
All right. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Go ahead.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to run to another meeting in a few minutes. So if you see me leave, I'm going to another meeting. Not because I don't like you, but thank you, Father, for letting us use the church once again. God bless you, brother.
He's actually leaving because he doesn't want to hear what I have to say.
I'm gonna wait till you finish.
Just kidding. When you look, first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here, especially those from outside of the East Ward. Welcome to the East Ward. Second, when you look at the statistics that we saw, the role of the police department, the local police department, the 3rd Precinct, and the members of the 3rd Precinct go well beyond the political area of the East Ward, going to Martin Luther King Boulevard, for example. The other side of Broad Street is also patrolled by the 30 Precinct cops, and that's not the East Ward, it's the Central Ward. So their responsibility is much higher than we think of, because the East Ward, as I said before, is on Broad Street, goes up to Broad Street and below Broad Street. It's one point. The second point that I want to make, and I always make this point, is that, and the mayor touched on that, the job cannot be done by the police officers alone. It has to be done by the community. The community needs to get involved. If you see something that is wrong, call. You may not get an answer, but call, because the call gets registered at least. And then we can take some action. And as the mayor said, the decisions ultimately are being done based on the number of calls and the number of incidents reported and so on. The third point that I want to make is, as you all know, the East Ward is not, for the lack of a better term, there's a lot of people in the East Ward that are not documented folks. And in most cases, when they get involved in an incident, what we find out is that there's a lot of fear on the part of the undocumented folks to report the crime that they're involved in, either as a witness or part of the crime, being the victim. And they do not report that crime. So that does not go into the statistics that we saw here. So there's the other side of the coin that you should be aware of. Crime is very low in the East Ward for a lot of reasons. The primary one is that the job being done by the police department is excellent. But beyond that, I think one of the hidden secrets of the East Ward is that a lot of people who are victims of crime in the East Ward are undocumented. And because of fear, they do not report that crime. And that doesn't go into as part of the statistics. I saw a lot of people saying, yes, that's true. And we need, in our contacts, we need to continue to tell them that the fact that they are victims of crime and they are undocumented, it doesn't mean necessarily that the police department, once they get involved with them, is going to report them to the immigration or anybody else. It's not their job, shouldn't be done, and they know that because every time we sit down and talk about these issues, we continuously tell them that if they're victims of crime, they should come forward and tell us that they're victims of crime so that it gets reported. The fourth one, and probably the last one, is that as the representative of the East Ward, I'm extremely proud of the work that is being done by these guys. It may not be as good as we would like to see it every day because of lack of resources or whatever the reasons are, but they do an excellent job. And every time somebody comes to me and says and criticizes the role of the police officer, I tell them, put yourself in their shoes, and then you see how things changed. So without further ado, and I didn't say anything that compromised anything that you said, so you can leave now. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to the captain, Captain Perez.
How's everyone doing? Well, thank you for coming out tonight. So, you know, you heard Jenna, you heard the mayor, you heard the councilman talk about crime reduction strategies, some initiatives, you know, and they hit the nail right on the head. You know, we target the right people at the right times and in the right places. We don't go into communities, we don't cast nets across communities. It's important to emphasize the right people at the right times at the right places. And that's always been my philosophy since I've come down here. You know, three components is we want to eliminate crime, we want to reduce the fear of crime, and we want to improve the quality of life for all. So that's part of our mantra in the 3rd precinct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. So all right, I'm going to do two things here. So the first is as I said, I'm Captain Adolph Perez. I'm the 3rd Precinct Commander, and with me today I have one of my community service officers, Crystal Reed, right behind. She does a lot of work in the communities. If you monitor social media, she's more popular, I think, than anyone in the city. So, and I thank her for that because she does an outstanding job. And my lieutenant, who's my executive officer, he's back there as well. So, and all the officers in the 3rd Precinct. It's not because of me, it's because of their hard work. They come to work every day and they work very hard. So where it all starts is some of our goals and objectives. So the 3rd Precinct will be a community that makes safety and security a top priority for all stakeholders. The community and police will be intolerant of crime and disorder. And these are our goals and objectives. 3rd Precinct will be recognized as a precinct that operates at the highest level of professionalism, integrity, and develops trusting relationships with all parts of the community. The 3rd Precinct executive team will leverage internal-external relationships to enhance a public-private partnership to further improve the overall quality of life of residents in the city of Newark. Those are some hefty goals and objectives. And while we're not claiming victory, it's definitely progress, what you see from 2016 to 2017, and it's carrying over into 18. We do have our challenges, we recognize them, and we're working through them. So the geography, what's the other thing? Want to do this for me? All right, okay. So the geography of the precinct, it goes from Raymond Boulevard out to Frontage Road, from MLK to Doremus Avenue. All right, that's a pretty large area, but that is what encompasses the 3rd Precinct. Next slide, please. This is a slide I'm pretty proud of. So it's a geographic and it's a little history of the 3rd Precinct. So the precinct is affectionately known as the Ironbound because of its industrial area bounded by the many railroads that once traversed the area. It's the largest geographical precinct. It's about 12 square miles, approximately 75,000 residents. Here's an interesting one. 3rd Precinct is home to the most vibrant community in the world. Portuguese, Spanish, Brazilian, Italian, Ecuadorian, Mexican, Puerto Rican, African American, German, Polish, Jewish, Lithuanian. And every meeting I go to, someone else throws someone else in, or another ethnicity. So please, there you go, Chinese. So that's a new one. I'm going to add that one to my next presentation. So, okay. Moroccan, there you go. So, precinct is home to one of the largest seaports. This is all in your precinct. One of the largest seaports and airports in the world. Liberty National Airport, Port Newark, and hopefully soon, Amazon. So precinct is home to many large corporations such as PSE&G, Prudential World Headquarters, Prudential Arena, Performing Arts Center, Symphony Hall, and the FBI building. 3rd Precinct is, in case you don't know it, it is the entertainment hub of the city with its fine restaurants and bars. So let's next slide, please. 3rd Precinct crime. So we're getting right into the nuts and bolts here. If you look at 2017, if you compare it to 2018, we ended the year with well, we're still in the year, but we're, as of yesterday, we're down 13%, right? Some of the areas that we have our challenges in, and I believe Jenna said it before, it's our aggravated assaults. So when you compare last year's aggravated assaults to this year's aggravated assaults, we're actually up 9 individual incidents. You look at our auto theft, which is another challenge, we're actually up 5 incidents. So we're running neck and neck with last year, and the guys are working hard to take care of that. The one thing is interesting, and I'll get into, well, the next slide, please, is violent crime. When you look at our violent crime, it's small concentrations, and I think someone said it earlier, it goes from like 21 to Pacific Street, South Street to New York Avenue. But the one thing we look at patterns, right? And as of now, we don't see any patterns. Once in a while, we'll get a team out there that goes out there, may do 1 or 2 jobs, that's a pattern, so we go after them. The one thing for our aggravated assaults, and the reason we believe that it is up, is because we've had 64 incidents of aggravated assaults this year. Okay, of those 64, 21 of those were domestic violence. Okay, and then on top of that 21, there was an additional 9 incidents where police officers in uniform were victims of assault. So statutorily, that actually automatically makes it an aggravated assault. So when you look at our total numbers for aggravated assaults, almost 50% of the aggravated assaults were either domestic violence related or a police officer in the performance of his duties was a victim of that assault. And then, you know, with the violent crime year to date this year, we're down 56% in robberies. So we're proud of that number. Getting right into the auto theft, the next one, please. If you look at our auto theft, we're up 5 incidents, and they're literally occurring all over the 3rd Precinct. So there's no specific area where they continuously come to target. From an operational standpoint, we look at, the precinct's broken up, I'm not sure if it shows it up there, into sectors. So it starts with 311 sector being maybe by Lincoln Park, 317, which could be over by the airport. But when you look at the 3 largest sectors, 317 means the airport, a lot of the industrial area. That geographically is the largest sector. But it's industrialized. When you look at 315 and 316, 315 goes from Route 21 to Wheeler Point Road, from Earl Street out to Elm Street. That's a very large sector. 316 goes from Wilson Avenue out to Lister, from Van Buren up to like Roanoke and Rome Street. Those are 2 large sectors. So when guys come in or gals come in to steal a car, those are the 2 largest geographical areas. So it makes sense that those are the areas that would suffer the most auto theft. So we deploy a lot of resources into those 2 sectors, especially 315. But you know, the one thing is that, you know, they're occurring all over the precinct, and some of the strategies we do is we have automated license plate readers on some police cars. We'll strategically place those on Route 21 and other areas that I'll leave nameless just to catch stolen cars coming through. We look at chop shops. So those are some of the strategies and initiatives that we use to try and combat the auto theft in the third. Next slide. So the next one is the auto theft recoveries. And the black dots represent stolen cars out of the third. I'm not sure if you can really see it on there. It's kind of small. But when you look at it, the black dots, then this is really for the last 28 days. They're all over, not in the third. They're other parts of the city. Okay? So I would almost hope that I would see a concentrated area in a small geographical area, because that's, in other words, is more meat, right? It gives me a higher percentage, or it's likely that they're either A, dropping all the cars in a specific area, because then I can go over there, I can deploy resources there, I can put cameras up, I can put pole cameras. There's a number of things that I can do to try and catch the bad guy. So it's unfortunate that they're not occurring in one specific area, but for the community as a whole, it's great that that they're being dropped off in other parts. So, so that's it for that one. Next one, please. Okay, you're there already. So here it's the personnel and the operational strategy for the third. For the third precinct as a whole, which encompasses Metro as well. So the Metro area goes from like, I believe it's like from New Jersey Railroad up to like MLK, from like Lincoln Park over to State Street. So total as a whole, we have 129 officers. 108 of those are assigned to patrol. Right, and they work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. We have four detectives, 9 sergeants, 7 lieutenants, and 1 captain. And that is the overall personnel staffing for the entire third precinct. The operational strategy for the third precinct personnel is to reduce crime, as I said earlier, improve the quality of life for all residents, visitors, and to continue building those bridges with the community. All precinct personnel shall maintain a professional demeanor, follow all applicable laws, and further strengthen the police community bond while collaborating with same. You heard it, I believe as the mayor said it, I can't do it by myself. I'm one person. Today I brought my CSO, my community service officer, I brought my lieutenant. It takes not just 129 officers that are assigned to the third precinct, and it's why we work so hard with the community. Okay? I get phone calls all the time. And I encourage all the phone calls coming in. It's always anonymous. So the point is that we cannot do it by ourselves, right? There's a saying, and you'll see it earlier. I tell all my officers, the police are the community, and the community are the police. And I can't say that enough. So, so some of the strategies we work on is called a split force deployment. So what I do is I just take a percentage of my patrol officers and I make them suppress crime. I take some of those officers and they're assigned to a quality of life team, right? It's 1 sergeant and 6 officers. So a split force deployment, it's a police strategy. It's taking a percentage of your officers and, well, a percentage are handling what's called calls for service, right? So whenever you pick up the phone, a uniform officer responds, he handles that. Sometimes in the city, it's so busy, that officer is just going from one job to another, to another, to another. And in his 8 hours, when I look at log sheets and everything, how much time did he really have to serve the community in a preventive role? Very, very little time. So the split force is taking a percentage of those patrol officers, designating them specifically to suppress crime. Does that make sense? Right? They're not answering calls for service. They're going into geographical areas, into hot zones, and they're patrolling with their lights on. Some of them are plain clothes, which you'll never see, and some are not. So they're more in a suppression role. I talked about my quality of life team, special enforcement, my 2 CSOs, I'll get into that later. Well, here we go, community engagement, next slide, please. 2 community service officers. One, as I said, is Crystal Reed right behind you. She works afternoons, and then I have another that works days, and they work tirelessly to continue building that bridge between the police and the community, and I think they do an outstanding job. And you'll see some of the photos later of some of the events that we participated in. And, you know, to prepare for this presentation, I literally went into a file folder and looked at all the photographs that I had, and it's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different events of where the uniformed officers are participating in different events. And I'm sure some of you are sitting here today can attest to the engagement and the fortitude of some of these community service officers. And what are some of the things? We do business visits, community walks, block watch walks. We engage the children. One of the first things I said is you got to catch them when they're young. You got to catch them when they're young. And we go into the schools a lot. So you'll see photos for Captain for a Day. We don't forget about our seniors. We go into our senior centers. We play bingo. And we attend various community meetings. So some of the things we're working on since I'm here in 2018, what we're doing, as I said, it's not a victory lap. We're not saying we won. We didn't. It's definitely progress. And when you look at what's going on, it's definitely progress. So we're tweaking things for 2018, and some of the things we're going to continue with our block watch walks. We're going to continue engaging in our schools. It's important. Those are our children. Neighborhood roll calls. We did it last year where we go into different neighborhoods. And instead of doing the roll calls inside the precinct, we do them out in the community. So a lot of the kids come out, and when I tell you, when a kid sees a motorcycle, when they see a horse, it's like we're all kids again. Even myself, I get excited when I see a horse. So don't know why, but we do march operations, which is a multi-agency response to community hotspots. So we did one the other day. It's summertime, a lot of vendors are coming out. Nothing against vendors. We support you as long as you're operating legally. It's just that simple. And if you're operating legally, then you're part of the community. If you're not, we're going to tell you how to go get your legitimate permits and operate legally in the community. We're attacking our after hours. I get a lot of complaints about after hours. I kind of lost count how many after hours we closed down last year and this year. And we get alcohol, we get guns, and we get drugs. So we're going to continue doing that. And as I said, some of the best initiatives that we've done, part of our overall strategy when it comes to community engagement, is our walking and listening tours. Whereas my administrative staff, myself, we go out and we just knock on doors randomly. Sometimes they're surprised to see me, but they either yell, "I didn't do anything wrong," or. But when you say to them, "Listen, I'm here to have a conversation with you," and they're very open to that. So let's get right into the photos. Next one, please. I know I'm dragging this on. So these are our business visits, and it's listening to business owners. Right, businesses have sometimes a different set of needs. Next one, please. This is Captain for a Day. This is something we started in the 3rd precinct, and we're probably up to 3 or 4. We go into the schools, and we basically tell the kids, draft an essay, and tell us what you would do if you were Captain for a Day. And you'd be surprised some of the responses I get. We started out with giving, it's always a pizza party. We do certificates for them. I actually swear them in. We have a mock swearing in for them, and they love it. So we started out with 1, and this is the last one. I think this was Hawkins School. We actually did 4 that same day. So, and from there, they go down to our stables. They see the horses. They see the motorcycles. They take, Crystal's right behind us. I mean, she's the one that pushes this. And you got to see the kids' faces after this day. So you're definitely changing and touching lives here. Next one, please. That's Crystal Reed. It's a b-ball pickup game in the neighborhood, right? And loser does push-ups, so guess who lost? But is it? Okay. Next one. It's a walk and listen tours in the neighborhoods. Listen and act upon community concerns. Listening is one part. You can hear them, but are you listening to them? Now, when you listen to them, the most important part of it is the follow-up. And that's the one thing I emphasize. So when we get a complaint, it gets documented and it gets followed up. So that's us walking in the community. And the one to the left, it's funny, I actually sent Officer Silva into an area to walk, and when he walked into this pizzeria, the kids that were in there actually knew him. So he takes the opportunity to take a photo, and he ended up purchasing pizza for the kids out of his own pocket. So, next one, please. I'm getting older now. My eyes are getting bad. But this is the community center. This is Crystal Reed doing arts and crafts with the kids. Right. I mean, to the left is she had the kids do police hats, and then I know another time she went back and she had them do police badges. So. Next one, please. This goes back a little bit, but it's, it's our community holiday toy and turkey drives. We just did Mother's Day. We went out into the community, we handed flowers out, we go to different places. We choose different places throughout the 3rd and try and hit those areas. So, next one, please. This is taking care of our seniors. Bingo night and Easter flowers for our ladies is what we called it. So both CSOs go and they deliver flowers to the young ladies. And that's just, like, as I said, that was just a few photos, but when I was going through them, there was hundreds of different events like this. Okay. So I couldn't agree with you more. It becomes very frustrating when I see my officers arresting the same people time and time and time again. It's in the hands of the judicial system. I can tell you that, us as officers, we're doing everything we can within our power. We're catching them at the right places, at the right times. And unfortunately, when they go into the system, it's in the hands of the judges. What I can say to you is that the beginning of last year, while bail reform is not the issue, it's prosecutor screening. So in Newark, which is unique to any other municipality, we have what's called prosecutor screening. So I'll give you an example. This past weekend, one of my officers caught someone with proceeds of a car. And it was maybe 10 minutes afterwards, we know he broke into it, right? So we do timelines, right? Maybe after 3-4 hours, if there's any lawyers in here, you can jump in and help me. After 3-4 hours, it's hard to say that particular person did that broke into that car. But 10-15 minutes after, historically, we would always charge them with a burglary into the auto. When we run it by our prosecutor, which is what I call prosecutor screening, unfortunately that person was charged with receiving stolen property, which is a lesser offense. So that's one of our challenges this year. And it's something we're working toward with the prosecutor's office, trying to make some changes in that area. But you are absolutely correct. It's a revolving door. I've been a cop for 28 years, and it's been that way since day one. But what I can say to you is that we are doing our jobs.
What can the community, as we as a community, what can we do? Like write letters to the prosecutor's office or what?
Yeah, that's actually a good start. You can vocalize your concerns about the whole thing to the prosecutor's office.
Okay. Thank you.
So I jumped the gun a little bit. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Zaid Mohammed, who is going to talk about the work that he does.
I'm feeling this feedback, and I got a big mouth, so I don't want to blow this mic.
You can turn it off. If you don't want the mic, you can turn it off.
But for recording purposes, do you need it? They need it. Okay. All right. First, power to the people, everybody. All right. My particular task is with another hard part of this whole thing that's important to appreciate, and that is the whole question of civilian oversight of policing and the role that civilians play in having some real accountability when it comes to police practices, so that they have the professionalism that we are starting to see, right? Let me just make several observations. First, I want to thank the church and its leadership for always being a resource that it has been for this community. That's important, right? I'm extremely proud of my partners from ICC. Supremely proud of the pioneering, groundbreaking, organically placed work that they do. I have to say that, right? I'm glad I'm finally meeting the mothers of Terrell Holmes, right? That is the story of Terrell Holmes is an incredible grassroots people's story in public housing that the whole country needs to pay attention to, and it is a story still unfolding, right? So we need that. I want to make one comment that I think that's important to appreciate, to build on and maybe take this a little further to the left from where we were so far in the previous proceedings, is that I appreciate the improved professionalism of the Newark Police Department. I absolutely am proud of that young man who was the mayor of Newark. Right? I've known that young man since he was 7 years old, and he has come a long way, right? And I'm gonna tell you something, and just you do your own math. The stuff that we have in place since he has become mayor around all these issues that we are all mutually concerned about simply did not exist before we won in 2014. So, so the question of politics is important in this, right? We need people's politics. So the point that I'm making is that one of the reasons why this thing is going so well, Captain, is that this community is also not just one of the most vibrant communities in the city of Newark, but is also one of the best organized in terms of grassroots community organizing. And that's the input that you're getting that's making a difference. And I absolutely wanted that said and not to be overlooked and to be appreciated. So all these community organizers, and I got a room full of them, y'all need to give yourselves some big ups, give yourselves a round of applause. Because we need to grow that and strengthen that, because that's the bridge that's going to make the difference in all of this, right? And finally, I got to say, coming back to the politics of this, is that we are in a serious fight for the mechanism that we believe is the proper mechanism for community oversight of police in this town, right? And that is, we were in a fight for our civilian review board. I have on this table to my right a lot of information about what we do, why it's important, how to get involved, and what the background is on that. So we just suffered a loss in the state courts. Some racist judge said that we can't do certain things that we all agree that we want. We passed this civilian review board unanimously, right? Unanimously. We did the groundwork to make that happen throughout this city, right? And we have the community and the city leadership elected united on that. And the democracy, this is also about the fight for democracy, right? Civilian oversight is supposed to be principal to how this whole thing is supposed to go. But when it comes to black and brown communities, we have this legacy of why that doesn't happen. And our city, I believe, and when I'm on the streets and I'm rallying folks, I don't just say power to the people. I say all eyes on Newark, because all eyes have been on Newark and are on Newark like they haven't been in decades, on the creative potential for us to break real ground on civilian oversight and our fight for our civilian review board. And we need a united front to continue to make that happen. That means we're going to do some stuff going down to Trenton, making noise in Trenton. That means we're going to have to put pressure on our new governor. And the new governor is very different from the last governor. We all have to acknowledge that. A big difference, right? We're going to have to put pressure on those legislative bodies. We're going to have to put pressure on this new attorney general to make some things happen so we can take this thing to another place. Because underneath that, right, and trying to do all this that we're trying to do together around public safety, we still have a great gap on the question of community trust of the police. Right? Community trust of the so civilian input is one thing, but civilian oversight is another level. And we need to be clear on the difference, and we need to be not negotiable around the need to take it beyond civilian input to civilian oversight. Y'all understand what I'm saying? I don't want to talk too long, right? This is an East Ward specific kind of conversation. You got all the right folks in the room to do this conversation. I'm proud to be here, Nancy Zach. Love you, lady. I'm very proud of you to stand on your shoulders, right? This is important work to do. Crystal, let me tell you about this young lady right here taking the pictures, right? I was here last January 15th. Y'all know what January 15th is. That's Dr. King's birthday, right? And we did this beautiful thing. Christian was the moderator, right? And this young lady got up and got on the mic. She didn't talk. She actually blew a little bit, right? So we love this young lady. And I'm saying that to say that this is the kind of thing that we need to build on, right? I got somebody here from the Newark Community Street Team. Stand on your work, right? Right? This is something that we need to build on, right? See, we all started with the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, right? Shutting down city blocks over this violence, not letting the community be numbed, and not letting city officials and private companies be numbed around us. And out of that came violence interruption programs like that. Now, that's concentrated in the West and the South Ward, but why is it not in all of the wards, right? That's something that we need to build on, right? So there are plenty of places to go with this. So I don't want to talk too much. I want to just do what I do, you know, in the minor role that I have, and I'm just proud to be a part of it. If you're interested in our work we do, we also have Know Your Rights handouts in about 6 languages now. I fought for for Haitian and Creole. We got that. We got Spanish. We got Portuguese and in English. All right? Here we go. It's your turn.
So I'd like to introduce Jade White. She's an Ironbound resident who will talk about community perceptions of safety. Thank you, Jade.
Hello, my name is Jay White, as she stated. I live in Higher Court, and we have a major issue with the police in our area. One of our main concerns is the cops speeding in and out of our courts. I understand at nighttime we have different things where, you know, things occur and they have to come in here, but we would appreciate if they could come in a slower motion, because I live right in the area where most of them come a lot, and they speed, and it's times I've walked out just to go to my car, and I could have got hit by the car. So that's one of our main concerns. Sometimes, you know, we have kids outside later than what they're supposed to be, and it's, you know, it's just not a safe feeling. Another thing that we had a concern was, we had a meeting back before, and we talked about, you know, the cops coming and walking within our complex. It started off like that. It's not happening anymore. I would rather them come. If you're going to sit in your car, you can leave your car there parked and walk within the community. That's why we don't have an interaction with the cops. The interaction we have is police officers driving by us, and even me as a female, I can cross the street and I have officers staring at me. I do nothing. I have, you know, I work in the community. I'm very active in my community with my youth. They are my heart and my life. So, you know, that's not an easy feeling to walk across the street being a female and I have an officer staring at me. Or let me be standing there. Yes, we have, you know, people that shouldn't be in our community, but they are, and you could conversate, and it's just an even harder stare. Rather than say, you know, hi, how are your day? I'm Officer Blasey Bly. How, you know, I just wanted to introduce myself to let you know we down here working. We want to get to know you. We don't get that. That's what we would like to have, rather than the interaction we have. We don't communicate and speak with the officers, because when they do answer calls for us, they're not happy to be there. It's always attitude. They don't come and say, what's going on? Well, I apologize. Let me correct myself, because we have had females. The female officers that come are more considerate and listening to what you say and don't give attitude as quick. So, you know, it's just an uneasy feeling. I have come out times to intervene and say, hey, officer, you know, my name is Jay White. I work with ICC. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And I have been disrespected by officers. Mind your business. We don't care what you're doing. And it's just like, when you want to have that relationship where you feel as though I can come to an officer and say, hey, officer, this is what happened. I spoke with this person. I'm very, you know, cool with this person. I was able to speak and find out exactly what happened. So maybe we can figure it out. They don't look for that. That's not what they want when we come to offer. Instead, we get the disrespect, and you need to go back in your house. Another issue we had was the lights. I understand if you're going to be in your car, which I already stated, if the cars are there, the cars should just be parked there, and they should be walking within a, you know, in our complex, because trust me, Lee, if they walk in between the complex, you're going to find a lot of stuff, and they will crack down, and you'll be relieved to come down to Higher Court. But if you don't walk, you're not going to see what's going on. Driving is, you just driving. You don't see what's going on in the hallways. And we constantly complain about, you know, the drug users that are in the hallways and using in the hallways. We have kids, and that is not a pleasant smell to have to walk through or go in the hallway, me being a, you know, a resident living here, kicking someone out my hallway because they're doing something they have no business. So I personally would like the cops to come. Introduce yourself, conversate with me. I'm a very outgoing, loving person and very active in the community, so where if you need help and assistance, I'm more than willing, but you have to come with that attitude. Miss Crystal, I appreciate you, because you do come and work with our kids. Our kids love you. You come to the rec center, and you also come to the church. You could come to Hawkins after school program too. But that's, you know, that's where I work with my youth. But you are a big big, big improvement to our community with our youth, because we had it to where our kids was outside in the streets doing whatever they wanted to do, and we had to snatch our kids back. This is not the route we want you to go down. And I feel if the officers were to come and intervene, a lot of our young men wouldn't follow the path that the older ones are setting and trying to trap our kids into getting involved in. We don't want that. I speak on it faithfully and heavily. I would like the officers, come play basketball with us. Come do games with us. We have had concerts with you guys, and we had a great time. We interacted with each other. We helped out. We need more of that rather than the officers that we have. Yes, like, you know, we need more than that.
That's right. Got to build on that.
Community officer.
Yes. Yeah, we more than one. We need a couple of them. But I do appreciate, I do see the change. I do appreciate the change that has been occurring. We have less, violence and less things happening in our complex wise, where I can speak on, and I appreciate the change. I'm able to sleep at night. We don't have to hear the cops coming in at night as much as they have been doing. So, it's a good thing to see the decreasing and the improvement that is occurring, but let's try harder within the community. And like I said, I'm Jay White. I live there. If you want me to help and get out there and speak, that's what we would do, but we have to have a change within our community to stop the arrest, to stop the drugs, because that's not what we want for our youth. And it's hard to do it. Me and the other youth, youth helpers that are living in there, and we work together to trap our youth and get them back. It's hard for us to do it by ourselves when they look at the cops as enemies rather than, I can go to this officer and say, hey, officer, I had a bad day. I'm having problems. They can't come talk to us about everything. Then the ones they talk to, they get the negative advice. Let's give them the positive advice. And I would like for the cops to be more active and come in our community, sit, talk with us. It's a couple of times we've seen one officer, and it was so funny. He was playing soccer with the kids, and he tripped and fell. We was like, oh my God, you okay? He's like, it's fine, I'm playing with the kids. And just to see that officer smiling and interacting with the youth, I told him, I said, I appreciate you. I appreciate that. And he was like, why did you say that? Because we don't have anyone who come and actually play with our kids, sit and talk with our kids like that. And we need more male figures. Females, we're taking over. We got it. You got Miss Crystal, you got myself, you got Miss Twinkie. You got a lot of people that females, we're strong and taking over, but we need that male support. Thank you.
As the captain pointed out, about 50% of the aggravated assaults involve disputes, and domestic violence is part of that. So we do have Emily Perez here, and she is the director at ICC of Mental Health to talk about domestic violence and some of the programs that they have and what are some of the strategies.
Well, I have a big mouth, but
Turn this up, turn your No, it's her microphone.
hello? Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to get you, Drew, because you didn't tell me there was going to be cameras here, and I don't have my makeup on. That's number one. So I've had the pleasure of working for Ironbound for many years. I came back a year ago as the Family Services Director. I don't want to age myself because I'm 25. But right now I am the Mental Health Director. Recently we were awarded a Victim of Crime Act grant for domestic violence services. I've been in the Ironbound for over 10 years, and I've never seen a domestic violence services program here. So I'm very happy that we were able to get this grant, and we are serving our community. With this domestic violence program, I just want to let you know that domestic violence does not affect because you're poor. It doesn't affect because you live in a certain sector. It doesn't affect because you're a woman or a man. It doesn't affect you because of what job you have. Domestic violence affects 1 out of 3. It used to be 1 out of 4, but now it's 1 out of 3 women in the United States that either themselves have been a domestic violence victim or they know someone really close to them that has. I have to say, I've lived in the Ironbound for 10 years, but my original place was Stratford and Avon Ave and Johnson Ave. That's my hood. And I am glad that Shani Baraka does have a domestic violence center there, because we are all one. We need to help each other no matter where we're located. And this is not just a woman's problem. It's a family problem. We also have, within the domestic violence services, we put a component in that we will be going to certain schools to educate young children on modeled behavior within a specific curricula called DS program. And the reason for that is that, yes, I can help the victim, I can assist whoever, the family, I can get you a shelter, I can get you food, but the biggest impact is that child. And because of that, we provide therapeutic services to children and adults facing domestic violence or that have been survivors of domestic violence. I love my children. The reason is you can change a child's perspective to think differently. And domestic violence is a learned behavior. Listen, a learned behavior. So if you're not able to break that cycle, it's going to continue. All right. So children are our gateway, and because of that, we did put in a component for children to provide this service and also therapy. And we do not turn anyone away. We are a team of 2.5. I'm laughing because we're a strong and powerful team of 2.5, but we have a team of over 100 staff behind me. My executive director is here, Joe, Myra, my COO, my colleagues, Irene, Sharon, Rosa, Evie, Christian, Drew, Nancy, the whole ICC staff here is here, and I know they have my back if I ever get stuck in anything, because we help each other out. This is our community. We love you guys, and if you guys ever need anything from me, you know where to get me, because I have blue hair. I've had it for 2 months. I don't think I'm going to change it. So if you guys see me down the street, I'm very outgoing. If you see me anywhere, just, hey, even the supermarket, the club, wherever you see me, you could stop me and say, hey, do you need, I will help you. Anybody that knows me, I will help you. And just know that we're here for you, not only the domestic violence program, but Ironbound, because we love and care for our community. Thank you so much, guys. Oh, and take a flyer, please. My name is Emily Perez. So take a flyer, please. And if you know anyone or if you yourself, please come down and see me. Thank you so much.